Hi everyone, welcome back to Slow Living Indian, a small cozy place where we talk about self-growth, self-grooming, self-care, self-love and all of that with slow living concepts at the back of our mind. Today's video is going to be part of a series which is regarding sunscreen. I really wanted to start it on my channel because I've made all the mistakes that I'm going to be talking about sunscreens ever. There was a time when I didn't use sunscreen because I thought I didn't need it, and I've done considerable damage to my skin by not using sunscreen, and I don't want you guys to do that. So today's video, as you can see by the title, is going to deal with common myths that we have all heard of, and I will try to debate those common myths regarding sunscreen with facts. So let us start the video. I do not need sunscreen because I'm brown skin. I have melanin and sun just bounces off because of that melanin. Why use sunscreen? So regarding this myth that only white or fair-skinned people need sunscreen, we have to understand that SPF, that is sun protection factor, started because a lot of people who were fairer or white, they had visible sunburn. Now that doesn't mean that sun doesn't damage our skin. By our, I mean brown skin or any skin which is not white. Sun damages everybody. For example, on a darker skin like mine, if I have acne, this was a activity on my face around 1.5 years back, and I still have this hyperpigmentation left. This is known as post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation. So this kind of post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation on brown skin will be more, and it will be increased if I have sun exposure without using a proper sunscreen. Wrinkles will affect you way more if you have not used sunscreen diligently. So many of us are talking about anti-aging products now. We want to use active acids, retinols and whatnot on our faces. But do you know all these products are going to make your skin more and more photosensitive? So if they're making your skin photosensitive and here you are not using sunscreen for one reason or the other, then you're actually damaging your skin way more by actually using these actives. So the bottom line is that if you want to progress in your skincare game, you need to use SPF. Otherwise, you use these tons of products, you move 10 steps ahead, and by not using SPF, you go 20 steps backwards. Not good maths. What? I use foundations every day. This has SPF. I do not need sunscreen. I get covered by this. This is such a common myth. We feel that if any cosmetic product, be it foundation or our powder, has SPF written on it, then we are covered. We do not need an extra layer of sunscreen. To bust this myth, let me talk about the amount of sunscreen that you need. Now, the protection that a sunscreen provides is not only decided by the SPF factor. Of course, that's important, but that's not the only thing. The amount of sunscreen that you're using is extremely important. And let me simplify the maths for you. For an example, just to have sun protection for your face, for your neck, and for your nape, you need 1 tablespoon of sunscreen. Any sunscreen that you're using. 1 tablespoon is approximately 5 grams. You do not use 5 grams of foundation on your face. It's just not practical. That is why any kind of cosmetic can probably give you a little bit of an added advantage if they have sunscreen in it, but they cannot be your only sun protection. You're talking to me? What? Why don't I use sunscreen? I never go out. I sit in my car, I go to my office, I sit there, I come back. What's the point? This is the myth that I followed for the longest time. I thought that if I do not go out in direct sunlight, I do not need SPF. For most part, I was staying indoors all the time, and I never understood why my skin had 50 shades of grey. When I finally saw a dermatologist, I got to know that I was extremely photosensitive. Photosensitive, not sun sensitive. Any kind of light was damaging my skin slowly and gradually. Now, my case, of course, is not everybody's case. Not everybody is extremely photosensitive. However, each and every one of you is photosensitive. We talk about photosensitivity. not sun sensitivity. Of course, if you go out in real sun, your photosensitivity will be more because you are there in direct sunlight. When I'm sitting in my office, hey, when I'm filming this video, I'm in front of a window. And through that window, even if I'm not getting direct sunlight, I'm getting both UVA and UVB. Now, what is UVA and UVB? Sun rays can be majorly divided into UVA and UVB in terms of UV light. UVB will be given as protection factor of SPF 30. So when you see sun protection factor of 30 or sun protection factor of 50 or whatever, that talks about UVB. Now, these are the rays which do not have high penetration. So maybe if you stay indoors, you won't be affected by UVB as much. UVA, however, is a completely different story. It has a high penetration power, and if, for example, when I'm sitting in front of the window, I am exposed to UVA, lot of anti-aging is hindered by UVA, and that is why in any sunscreen you should also see SPF, but you should also see PA+++ or PA++, which talks about UVA. So this is UVB and this is UVA. When we combine the two, if a sunscreen is protecting you from both the rays, it is going to say broad spectrum on it. So in short, no matter if you go out in direct sunlight or not, SPF is extremely important. Of course, if you're not out in the sun, you won't get burnt or you will have definitely less tanning or hyperpigmentation. But you will have anti-aging benefits if you regularly use sunscreen despite the fact that you are indoors. I have heard that sunscreen has a lot of chemicals in it. That's why they are called chemical sunscreen. Physical sunscreens are good because they are called mineral sunscreens. However, they leave a white cast, and that's why I just skip the whole thing and do not use sunscreen at all. In short, let me tell you that physical sunscreens and chemical sunscreen, the only difference between these two is that they use different kind of filters. Physical sunscreens or mineral sunscreens usually use chemicals which sit on top of your skin. They are less likely to get absorbed and they sort of reflect the sun rays away from your face. And that is why they are called physical sunscreen. They are titanium dioxide and zinc oxide. Chemical sunscreens, on the other hand, use different filters like oxybenzone or ivobenzone. Oxybenzone, however, is not considered to be that safe nowadays because there's a lot of scientific evidence that it does disrupt hormonal balance if you use it too much. If you want to avoid a particular chemical, you can easily choose a sunscreen which does not have oxybenzone in it. My point here is that you can easily ditch oxybenzone if you do not like it or if you have read about it, but you do not need to ditch complete class of chemical sunscreens just because they are called chemical. Sunscreens are so much work. I've heard you have to reapply them every 2 hours. Who has the time? A lot of my friends do not use sunscreen only and only because of this reason. They say that because sunscreen have to be applied every 2 hours or 3 hours and they do not have the patience for it or the time for it, they are not going to use sunscreen. Now let me talk about it for a little while. Point number 1, yes, it is most efficient if you keep on reapplying sunscreen frequently, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, because it eventually disintegrates when it comes in contact with sun or when it comes in contact with sweat, stuff like that. Also, we keep on touching our face, and when we touch our face, we sort of remove that sunscreen a little bit. So of course, it is the most efficient way to get sun protection if we keep on reapplying sunscreen. You need to reapply your sunscreen more depending upon the amount of SPF that you have in it. Lower SPF usually needs to be reapplied faster. The amount of sweating or sun exposure that you have. For example, if you're working in an office, like me, I work in an office, so I reapply my sunscreen 4 hours. However, if you feel that you cannot reapply sunscreen, you can at least apply it once. It has been proven in a lot of papers that, and I'm talking about scientific papers here, that if you apply sunscreen even once every day, it is going to help you a lot. I just get very confused. SPF 15, 30, 50, what does it mean? Yes, I know, it can be so confusing, but let's talk about it. When I go and see my sunscreens, these are the 3 things I see. Not only the SPF factor, these three things. First and foremost, is it broad spectrum? That is my utmost priority. Point number 2 is your ability to reapply. For example, if I have an SPF of 25, but I absolutely freaking love that sunscreen, I have no problems reapplying it. It moves like butter on my skin doesn't react to it. I will use it more often. On the other hand, if there is a sunscreen which has SPF 100, seemingly like, bulletproof, but it doesn't work with my skin, what's the point of having SPF 100 when I'm not going to apply it because I don't like that sunscreen? I hope I'm making myself clear. So, usability factor is also important. Go and choose a sunscreen which is broad spectrum and you feel nice about it. That should be the main criteria and not just the SPF factor. But I'll still give you a rule of thumb. Between SPF 30 and SPF 50 is a great window because you find so many products within this range. You find different variations of these products, so you can go out and buy what you like. And between this range, they give a really nice protection factor. I use sunscreen sometimes and they always give me acne. They're bad for my skin. I don't use them. They break me out. It's actually not even a notion because it's true. Any sunscreen can give you acne or irritation or a white cast, much like any other product. Of course, it's a product. It can have its disadvantages. Much like any cosmetic product, you will have a learning curve. You will have to try more than one sunscreen to find the best one that your skin likes. I will try to give you some of the pointers. So for example, if you have an acne-prone skin, then go and search for a sunscreen which specifically talks about being non-comedogenic. For example, this sunscreen from Clinique, it specifically talks about being non-comedogenic. If you are darker skin, then pure physical sunscreen may give you horrible white cast. So try to combine physical sunscreen with chemical sunscreen. You have a lot of mixed sunscreens in the market, or try to go with pure chemical sunscreen. If you have more irritation prone skin, then try to skip chemical sunscreen at least in the starting and then move on from physical to chemical sunscreen as you experiment. 7 myths busted. I hope that if you have suffered from post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation, tanning, discoloration of your face, irritation after sun, proper sunburn, or if you're very diligent about your anti-aging regime but you're not using sunscreen, now you will start using them. Saying bye now, and I'll see you when I'll see you. Ta-da!